All right. Thank you, India, for the smooth fade out of the music. Um, so, again, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this discussion about reimagining leadership while we lead with others. Um, my name is Sarah, and I am the Learning and Engagement Coordinator here at GlobeMed headquarters. And we're so excited to hear your thoughts this evening. So I encourage you to participate in the way that's most comfortable for you. And if that's sharing your thoughts out loud, that's great. Totally welcome that. Go ahead. And if that's putting your reflections in the chat, that's also great. And we welcome that. And I'll go ahead and read them out loud. Also, feel free to DM either myself or India if you want an anonymous read aloud. We can do that too. Um, and yeah, this time is about coming together as a community and learning from one another as we work towards our goal of health equity. So, we're going to start off our session with some introductions in a breakout room. You'll have 10 minutes with your breakout room partner, and we want you to introduce yourself. Go ahead and share your name, your pronouns, and your role in GlobeMed. And then afterwards, we ask that you reflect and share with your partner about a time when you felt valued in a team setting or when you didn't, and then talk about what you might have needed at that time and whether that was given to you or not. We'll rejoin in 10 minutes and we'll take it from there. But yeah, this breakout room activity with introductions also flows with our leadership conversation for tonight. So go ahead and think about all the times you've been in a leadership position, the times you haven't, the things people might need, and the things you definitely need to be your best self in a leadership role. So India will go ahead and open up those breakout rooms. And if you need any help joining a breakout room, also let us know in the chat. Okay, welcome back. I hope that was a good intro breakout room and you guys got to discuss a few things about experiences with leadership. Um, I want to reshare that at any point during the session, you can unmute, you could raise your hand, you can share in the chat about what you're feeling and sitting with as we move through our discussion today. And the reason I say that is because as students, you're all within institutions that expect so much of you, and throughout your life, the system tries to instill what leadership is supposed to look like. And because of the systemic thinking and the influence that it has on us, you might have moments during this session where you're talking with each other and where you'll have to pause and rethink the concept of leadership altogether. And so I'm not claiming to bestow any earth shattering knowledge. You may have very well heard about strength based approaches or strength based thinking or horizontal leadership before. I don't think these are new concepts. We're definitely going to run through them in depth. But what I do mean is that you all have roles within your chapter where those concepts might apply differently than they do on your broader campus or in your life. And so if that sparks something in your brain, I want you to be able to share that with us so that we can all learn from each other and learn together. And so with that, we can move on to talking about strength-based approaches and horizontal leadership. So first, let's talk about strength-based thinking. Strength-based thinking and approaches require us to play up our team members' skills. And so if we want a healthy team, we need to respect and provide opportunities for people to use those skills. And on the other hand, if we want a healthy team, we shouldn't neglect to find out what people's strengths are in the first place. And so strength-based thinking is guided by the premise that every single person has strengths and skills, and every single person has a part to play on a team. And so it doesn't mean that we're avoiding deficits or negatives. We're not sugarcoating certain situations that may come up, but everyone has things that we can work on in terms of those deficits and skills building. And so instead of focusing primarily on the areas that we need work on or we need to put more development into, we're choosing to focus on the strengths. And by doing so, we can find many solutions to different problems, difficulties, etc. And instead of getting stuck in everything that's going wrong, we're able to see the opportunities and be able to imagine what's possible. And so that's a leadership practice, right? See possibility. Um, and so, especially when team dynamics are being built, and as you meet with your e-board or with your entire chapter for the first few times of the academic year, you may want to take some time to identify what people's strengths are and then set them up with roles or tasks or teammates for the year that play on those strengths and skills. And so, I'm going to plug here. Headquarters has been updating and finalizing a leadership development packet for everyone to use, and we'll release that soon for you to use if you're interested. It's really cool. I think, yeah, Priya is on this call. Yay, Priya did a lot of work with this, and so it'll be really cool. When we release it, definitely try to use it. And yeah, we can move on to the next slide, which is about horizontal leadership. Um, and so before we talk about horizontal leadership, we can talk about what we most often see in society, which is vertical leadership or hierarchical leadership. And so you may see the picture on the slide if you can access the slides and the screen right now. Yay. But vertical leadership or hierarchical leadership is top down. There is an imbalance of power dynamics. And so this might look like, within a chapter, it could look like everything and all the important information being stuck with the co-presidents, and maybe the other e-board members don't know everything that's going on in the network, or they don't know about their next steps or what they should be working on. And if we take it out of GlobeMed context and talk about, I don't know, like your place of work, there might be like a manager, and you're the employee. They might have certain benefits that you do not if you're like part-time or something. And so like there's just different power dynamics and different roles, responsibilities, and we can familiarize ourselves with different roles and responsibilities, but there's also benefits and disadvantages to having that type of structure. And the values that we hold with certain people who hold titles, right? So president versus, teammate or partner or something like that. Chapters have co-presidents. That's our attempt at like leveling things out and putting more people on the team, right? So we'll jump into horizontal leadership since I brought that up. Horizontal leadership, as opposed to vertical leadership, is more collaborative. Leaders seek to uplift the entire group. There's special value in everyone's voice and perspective. Everyone contributes equally, and everyone has a hand in building success. And so if you can see the picture on the screen, I'll describe it. If you can't, there's a bunch of people all on the same level, holding up a bunch of gears, or what do you call these, like nuts and bolts, those kinds of things, to kind of represent that like everybody's working together to put something together, like put all their efforts into making something happen. And so this is ideally what we hope each chapter can reflect. And that being said, I want us to get back into our breakout rooms to discuss what types of skills we're going to need for the upcoming year, how we're going to structure ourselves within a chapter to do two things. To one, make sure that everyone's skills are being valued, and two, make sure our team structures are built in equitable ways. And so while you're in this breakout room, I want you guys to try to expand past hard skills and think of what holistic skills members might bring to the community within your chapter. So everybody brings something to the table. We already established that, and we established that you need everybody at that table for better outcomes. So think about what you're going to want from your chapter members, not just your e-board members. What do you want out of your partnerships? What do you want from your campus? Can you demand or ask for things on your campus? Like, what are those skills or requirements that you're going to need for a successful, quote unquote, or, just a really good and fun academic year ahead? And so we'll spend 10 minutes in this activity. And when we come back, I would love for as much sharing as possible, because there might be something that another member from another chapter would want to consider bringing back to their chapter, to their folks. And I really like the group that we have and the collaboration we can get from each other. So please, 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 if you have to assign a share back person who brings all that information and good stuff back to us, you can do that. If you guys are comfortable with each other, you can all just like unmute when we get back. But that's that. The questions are on the slide. I'd also like to bring this up because we joke about it once you guys go into breakout rooms. But every day we've been discovering new Zoom features. And so yesterday we discovered that you can share screen while people are in breakout rooms. And India is our fabulous tech support staff member on the call today. And so if it's possible, India, to share the screen. I don't know. We didn't go through it during tech run through, but we'll try. If not, I'll copy and paste these questions in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat while in the breakout room. I will see them. And yeah, that's all the rambling I have. Yeah, I'll post things in the chat for you guys and see you in 10 minutes. Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so share in the chat, how was that breakout room? Was it short, long? Were you in the middle of the sentence and we cut you off? Or was it like perfect timing? How was it? You could also use the reaction. Awesome. Jacob says it was nice, got lots of ideas from each other. Smiley face. Good thumbs up from Caitlin. Good thumbs up from Sarah. Cool. Good thumbs up from Ria. Yay. I'll read all of them. Grace, yeah, all these thumbs up. Benjamin, I see y'all. Um, okay, how about we share what we talked about in the breakout rooms? And so I'll have a moment of silence for if anybody wants to go first and just unmute themselves. And if we can't bring ourselves to unmute, I can call on breakout rooms and go like popcorn style. Popcorn is usually fun, takes a lot of pressure off. But yeah, does anyone want to start and kick us off?
One of the big things that my breakout room talked about was just communication in general, whether it be communication with our partner, especially because for a few of us, like the pandemic, like was really rough on our relationship, and then like communication with the school's administration, and then obviously as communication within our committees and members in general.
Yeah, communication from a bunch of different parties, right? Like there's this expectation of you as GlobeMed members to maintain communication with each other, with your chapter, whether you're on partnerships or on a grow team, like with your partner, and then with headquarters. Communication is super important, but yeah, your universities also have that commitment to you guys to like maintain communication and like let you know that their leadership is also something you would like to model. And so you can always interrogate that, question it, um, and like assess if that's like the type of leadership you'd also like to mirror, or if you'd like to do something different, maybe even better. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Francis from University of Rwanda chapter, and in our small room, I was with Peter. We had quite a good time, and unfortunately, we were cut off. We had a long conversation. So question number one, we talked about mobilization, flexibility, and being proactive as a few skills that may help us, thrive as a chapter. And strictly going to question two, we didn't get, we had not yet discussed enough about part B, but because particularly for our chapter, we don't have, for example, disabled members already. So I was still trying to figure out which could be the case or the necessity for an equitable structure. And I gave in a funny example. I hope Peter will let me break it here. So I spoke about, for example, having setting meetings on a Sabbath. We would need to be flexible, of course, for the Seventh-day Adventists, but unfortunately, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have many of them, so we have all generally never had a need for such a flexibility. We are all almost in the same settings. Most of us, if not all of us, are students, so we almost don't find the differences in needs. For example, when we set up a meeting, and on part A of the question two, we were thinking of having, for example, open table meetings where everyone's idea is valued, and the conclusions are not necessarily limited to or restricted to the co-presidents, for example, or the electors, or anyone in the EB. But we can also hear ideas from hear and consider ideas from members in general. This to bring in more a horizontal structure of leadership. I guess that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were a number of good reflections. Oh, wow. Yeah, flexibility is super important. That is a great skill that leaders should mirror, in my opinion. I think, given the year we've all had and are continuing to experience with the pandemic, flexibility and grace, those are two qualities within leadership that like I've seen from headquarters, I've seen from chapters, I've seen you guys show it to each other with your partners, I've seen partners show it with students. Like those are great qualities to have because it allows us to have more room, be flexible with like seeing possibility in different things and trying new things out. So like having meetings over Zoom, different schedules happen and like take place. Everybody lives a different life, and so I love hearing that. Um, yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. Would anyone else like to share?
In my group, I had mentioned like an anonymous feedback form that we started at Middlebury for both e-board members and general body members, really open to anybody who's involved in GlobeMed or just on campus and knows what GlobeMed is up to. So I think that was really helpful in reflecting upon how our chapter and especially the leadership within the chapter could like better serve our GlobeMed community at Middlebury.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, anonymous feedback forms are great. Um, because that allows everybody to share their opinion with leadership without fear of being like scolded, finger wagged, reprimanded, which should never happen when you give feedback, right? So that's good as well that you can make space for people to share what they're feeling, and also that comes with action, right? So um yeah, just like taking feedback and then doing nothing with it probably isn't as effective as like doing something with that feedback. So if a member needs assistance or has a question or wants to see something, I imagine that like you as GlobeMed leaders are going to do everything in your power to make sure that person their requests and their needs are valued and respected so that the community feeling, that vibe that happens within chapters, that's maintained, right? Um, but you guys are already so good at that. So I love hearing that that's already like a norm with the Middlebury chapter. Thank you for sharing. We have a good amount of time to keep sharing. I love these ideas. Does anyone else want to talk about what they brought up in their breakout room? Anything that they're feeling right now? Any ideas sparking? there anything that was brought up in your breakout room that made you think, oh, I want to bring this back to my chapter, I want to bring it back to my e-board and let them know that I really like this, or I don't like what we're doing and I think we can make it better?
One thing that someone brought up in our breakout room was having a time at the end of every e-board meeting to reflect on how each member is like feeling that their skills are being valued and used appropriately on the team, and like seeing if there are other ways that their skills could be used. And so I think in that way, like they're probably really able to make sure that everyone is being valued too. And so I think that that's something I would like to bring back to UW.
Okay, this might be like more chaotic than constructive, but something that came out in a staff retreat that we had in headquarters earlier was just this idea that I'd never thought of before, like that e-boards, the way that we structure chapters, even with just e-boards and co-presence, everything is upholding a really hierarchical view of operating, and through that upholding potentially harmful ways of organizing ourselves, and just having this a inherently hierarchical structure. And what alternatives look like for that, I haven't fully thought through yet, or what really are the pros and cons of structuring our e-boards the way that we do. But it is just a thought that has continued to bounce around in my head a few times since this summer, and would also be interested to hear if there's others who've reflected on something like that.
That's a great question, Peter. Let me get a vibe from the people we have in this breakout room, not a breakout room, our main room. I just want to get like a pulse check, small sample size compared to the big size of our network. But thumbs up or thumbs down, or something in the chat. Have you guys entertained or ever thought of the idea of e-board structures being changed in a way, if not like done away with completely? Are we vibing with that idea, or are we not vibing with that idea?
A couple years ago, we actually, when we did e-board elections, we didn't have anyone apply for the co-pres position. And so we ended up having two people who were elected to other positions take on both those positions and the co-pres position. And then we also like kind of split up the responsibilities of the co-pres position. And through that process, it just kind of happened on accident. We ended up kind of making it a little bit more equal. And we've gone back to, having the co-pres be its own position, or two positions this year, but that kind of happened on accident for us. But I think it is a cool thing to kind of have everyone have pretty equal responsibilities that year, but it's not something we've talked about a lot other than that instance.
Yeah, so it sounds like it was like a forced horizontal leadership year. Like that was like the natural thing that happened. um Yeah, no, it's a weird thing with recruitment and retention. I don't think that's like a consistent, you know, I can imagine at different chapters with all the things going on in the world, recruitment and retention has to be the hardest thing, right? And so when you have a small group to work with and all the different e-board positions that are quote unquote GlobeMed norms, it could feel hard to like fill all of those positions. And so Peter brought that up. I'm continuing this conversation only because I think, this Leadership Institute season, last week, this week, and then another week in September coming up, it's all based around the idea of reimagination. And so we don't want you guys to feel limited to rigid structures and the core principles of what you guys do within your chapters, that's more important than holding a title and saying I am the director of blah blah blah. It really comes down to like the functions. And so if you have dedicated people in your chapter who are willing to help you carry out those functions with or without the title attached, that's how you know like your chapter is healthy. You are thriving and vibing. Like it's good all around. And necessarily having the title of co-president, director of finance, like all these like titles, those are arbitrary. And I've definitely seen other chapters have different positions, like director of advocacy and a bunch of other things. So like you can make things up as you go. These structures are not end all be all. And yeah, it's interesting to just like throw out there, see how we're feeling about that, and that you guys know you have the permission to reimagine these things. So thank you for sharing your reflections on that. Um, and thank you guys all for like just sharing your reflections in general. I was mentioning to India, like I usually do tech support stuff if not facilitating, and today I was not doing that, and it felt a little weird. I don't know, but like I love our group. I love talking with you guys, and so I thought this was a good session. Um, we do have to end at some point. So as we close for the evening, I would like to remind everyone that we have one more program this week on Thursday, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time. We'll be looking through some case studies and doing some collective brainstorming. So case studies have been a fan favorite every year at Leadership Institute, and we have some good ones. And so India is dropping in the chat our live Leadership Institute page, where you can all register for that. And as a note, if you're a co-president in the room, we highly encourage you to attend those. But also invite all e-board, all chapter members if you got them. Open the invitation up to all GlobeMed folk because, the more the merrier. We have a good conversation. And please let us know if you have a topic suggestion for a collaboration corner. That's the last part of our Leadership Institute season that we've like deconstructed into 3 separate weeks, and that'll happen in September, so you can find that on our website. Also reach out to us at info@globemed.org, and you can reach out to your chapter coach as well. And finally, I hope you will fill out our feedback survey, which India will be dropping in the chat. And yeah, know that you guys can reach out to us for anything and that we really appreciate your time today. So thank you for coming. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.